they just don't have that mentality or that grit or that expectation of how long it really takes to do the right thing over and over again. And if they knew the compounding result of how it made them feel or what they would receive in return long term, they'd all do it.
I like that default life. I like living by design rather than by default.
Hey guys, Justin Brock here, back at it again with another episode of Gurunomics. And today we have a guru who has been a guru to some huge names. We're super excited to have Tim Storey on the podcast. Humbled that he's taken the time. He's a friend. He's a great speaker. We've heard him speak a couple of times. And he is someone who's really touched, the hearts and minds of some great people, people that it's almost crazy to even speak some of their names. We'll get into that later. But he also has a new book out. So if you're unfamiliar with Tim, please look him up on Instagram, Google him. He's got a great website, actually. I love the website when I was checking it out to get a little bit more acquainted with some of the in-depth stuff. But thank you so much for being here, Tim. We appreciate your time.
What a privilege. And Justin, I was watching you today. I watched many videos, right about 5, and I'm liking what you're doing. So it's a privilege to be talking to you today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Tim. Well, as I'm, reading about you and what I know about you, obviously there's some things that stick out. But one thing I'm curious about is I was following your stories. Once I reached out to you on Instagram to get more acquainted and try to, bring you into our fold and think graciously you accepted, my invitation. I started watching some of your stories on Instagram, and you recently were in Spain.
Yes.
Doing something. What were you doing there? I did see that you've been to like 75 countries, which is awesome. I've been a lot, but not 75. Tell me what you were doing in Spain.
So it's kind of cool. Like when I started, my background was I went to seminary and then ended up getting a doctorate in world religion and became a humanitarian. So I started traveling the world as a young person. 20 years of age is when I started speaking. And I created a curriculum to help like underprivileged children. So that's how I started. And so then it just developed and took off into helping entertainers, NFL players, NBA players, Major League Baseball players. Then it went into, self-help development. So in Spain, I was working with a company, which is one of the largest AI companies in the world. And we were doing a leadership retreat. So I was helping to do a leadership retreat. But you notice that wherever I go, I also have fun. Have you noticed that in my Insta stories?
I sure did. You guys were doing some hiking and together, and just seemed like you were sitting with groups of people and doing a lot of collaborative efforts, and it looked like a lot of fun. I was like, man, hanging out in Tim Storey for a couple of weeks in Spain would be pretty dang cool. So I was jealous of some of the guys getting to do that. Well, that's awesome. So I didn't know the humanitarian background, starting that early, on a mission. I think it's important to have a mission. When I was at my sales meeting this morning at my other office, and we're talking a lot about that, what are you attaching to your success? And a lot of times early guys that see some success have a chip on their shoulder, and that chip helps them get somewhere. But then when they get to, maybe level 4 or 5 or whatever that is on the spectrum, that kind of fades out, and you got to find something bigger than that chip on your shoulder. And we were talking about that this morning, and so you started right out of the gate with a cause bigger than yourself. Have you seen that cause evolve over time, or more, or adapted to having more causes that help drive you to doing all the things you're doing?
Yeah, no doubt about it. But I like what you said, because I think some people, they start with a chip on their shoulder, and then that becomes like their motivation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like the opposite.
Right.
Because I think that when you have a chip on your shoulder, you're always fighting against something. And in In fact, you'll create things to fight against that are not even there. So to me, rather than have a chip on my shoulder to prove something, I am cooperating with what I think that God has spoken over my life. And so I feel that every person on the planet has been spoken over by God about what their plan and their assignment is. So that's why, I love it when all my friends are doing well, and some of my friends live in like amazing houses or have yachts or have their own airplanes or huge TV shows. I'm happy for everything they do because that's them.
Yeah.
But they don't get to do the fun stuff I do. So I'm good with what they do. I'm just doing my assignment. I'm just a piece of the puzzle.
Yeah. So you would say that you understood the assignment.
Yeah, but it took a while. It took a while because I think that, what happens when you're little,
Yeah.
you have these dreams, and your dreams are based on three things: education, conversation, and observation.
Right.
So when you get educated, and like if they started educating you about certain things, you then say, hey, I might join the military, like in the case with what you did.
Yeah.
Or for me, they started educating. I want to help people because I started reading this book about the life of Mother Teresa, how she helped all these orphans. So education, conversation has changed my life. Like I have great conversations with people like yourself that have really helped my life, enhanced my life. And then the third, and I think one of the most important, is observation, where I started to see lives that I thought, man, I kind of jive with that guy's life or what they're doing or what they're up to. That's the way I would like to approach life. So that's what helped me find the right plan and right assignment for my life.
I like that, because we're constantly hiring people, and I like to think that when I'm hiring people, I'm bringing people into the fold that I feel like, would I not only fit in, but that have kind of the same core, at least core set of parameters for what their belief is. And it's
Yes.
great to see when we put them into a business like we have that is a little unorthodox, especially for where we live, how some of these people come out of these traditional jobs and they'll be in this, this lifestyle that society's kind of put them in. And we put them in this other position that challenges everything that they believe about what they were supposed to do. And they blossom and become happier people. And it's not all money driven. I think money, sometimes it'll start with an income. But then it
Yes.
becomes just like, the freedom to express themselves a little bit differently, and then just feeling like when they show up, they're happy and they're getting to, be preached into the same quality information. So,
I like what you're saying. I think that part of leadership of what you're doing, Justin, is when I talk about leadership, I do this seminar called Lead Your Ship. And so some people like lead their little tiny boat, lead their little fishing boat.
Yeah.
But some people lead like a big cruise ship.
Yeah.
And so when you lead your ship, when you're in leadership, you're leading because somebody needs to follow, wants to follow, or it's best for them to follow. And I think one of the things that a leader can do is look for things in individuals that they don't necessarily see in themselves, and like blind spots.
Right.
Like that's what my strength is. Like people always say, like, how did you get in with all these entertainers for so many years? Because I've been life coaching entertainers for over 30 years. And it's because I'm good at looking at people's lives and seeing the blind spots or something that's missing or something that's obvious that they're not dealing with. Yeah.
Yeah. I was reading, some of the reviews from people on yours, and you have like Quincy Jones and Smokey Robinson and just some kind of iconic names that are almost like, if you say some of those names to a 20-year-old, it's an iconic name to the point where they might not know anything about that person. They're like, I know they were important and big. And you've
Yeah.
been, coaching these people and involved with these, iconic people. So I have to ask you again, like how, like you just said, you get asked, how does your network get to the point where those people had sought you out for something at some point?
Yeah. Again, I think it's an assignment because there's no way I could have like manipulated my way into the position that I'm in. Like, it's kind of cool. There's a group called the Pointer Sisters. They've been around forever, but they did a song called, I'm so excited and I just
Yeah,
can't hide it. I'm about to lose control and I think I like it.
yeah.
Ruth Pointer, the head of the Pointer Sisters, texted me yesterday. She said, I'm in the Boston airport and I'm watching you because I'm in 90 different airports every day, all day. They loop these videos. So I went in, I shot 40 videos. Each one is like 2 to 3 minutes long on inspiration, motivation because of the pandemic. I was asked to do this. So
Wow.
I'm all over the world. And I'm also now in 1 million um, rooms and hotel rooms, over 1 million.
Wow.
And then I write for American Airlines Magazine and United Airlines Magazine almost every month. It was every month, but now it's like probably 9 times out of 12.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you manipulate yourself? How do you get to be so close with Oprah, where I've done so many projects with Oprah, her TV show over and over, her, speaking on tour with Oprah. I'm in her new book. I was in her documentary, um, hang out at her house. I mean, how do you make that stuff happen? So to me, I believe this. I believe in building your spot, and life will put the spotlight on your spot.
Gotcha.
So, don't ask me to fix your car. That's not what I'm good at. I'm
Me
not a
either.
great chef, but I'm learning to cook better.
Yep.
But in the area of self-help development, I'm really hard to beat.
Yeah.
I would be almost Tom Brady status.
Yeah. Well, you know, I think, you're a strong suit that it seems like you have is one-on-one communication, one-on-two small group, being able, and so I talk to a lot of people that like they want to become speakers. They want to speak. They want something that gives them, or they think that gives them. I think early on I had to polish to even be on a stage or to speak to a camera. I had to get used to that. But something that I was inherently felt, good at after I did it for a while was having those one-on-one communications. It actually started in the sales position for me when I would, be selling, and all it really was you're selling yourself. I found out,
Yeah.
hey, if I'm in a one-on-one setting or one-on-two or one-on-three, people tend to like me, and so I started understanding that was something I was good at. But then when you know that, you really need to use that power for good, and so
Yeah.
I think that's
So if
what
you
you've
don't
been
mind,
doing.
Justin, let's help some people because
Yeah.
um, I do this thing called the law of the harvest. And
Okay.
I teach on that literally all over the world. I probably taught this in over 30 countries. So the law of the harvest is that we focus a lot in our culture on the harvest of this is what I want. And they see it and they want to manifest it. But the law of the harvest, which you're going to know more about this than the average person being from Mississippi, because you've seen people that are working with crops, et cetera. You got to plow the ground. You got to plant the right seed. And that's key. Then you got to water the seed, which is repetition. And then you have to then reap the harvest. But you got to plow, you got to plant, you got to water, you got to harvest. I think a lot of people, they only plow for like a minute and then they plant a little bit of good and a lot of bad. And
Hmm.
then they wonder why their lives are not reaping like this bountiful harvest.
Yep.
And so people that are around me, like my really good friends, will say, Tim, no wonder this stuff happens for you. Because I get weird stuff happen to me. Like people want to give me everything. I've been given so many like Rolex watches. I've been given. People try to give me horses. People try to give me sailboats. People try to give me everything. And I don't think it's by accident, according to my friends, because you reap what you sow.
Right.
I'm constantly sowing into people. Like there's a lot of events where they'll say like, we'll pay you 50,000 to do this. And I go, nah, it's too much. Bring it down. And they'll be like, did you just say that? I go, yeah, I mean, you're coming up, bring the price down. Why? Because I am a sower. You reap what you sow. So if you plow, you plant, you water, you're going to get a harvest, and payday will be on its way. So everybody watching, that in any part of your life, if you would just plow that ground, plant the right seed every day, water that seed through repetition and right thinking and right doing, you will reap a harvest that you're looking for.
Yeah. So many people are trying to skip straight to the harvest, and it just doesn't work that way. They see what other people have and they think, okay, and in our case, in building an insurance agents, a lot of our audits are in that industry, and they sometimes they just don't have that mentality or that grit or that expectation of how long it really takes to do the right thing over and over again. And if they knew the compounding result of how it made them feel or what they would receive in return long term, they'd all do it. And I guess it's the same thing with like dieting or something.
Yeah.
Somebody knew beyond the shadow of a doubt that X would happen if they could do it. But it's just, I guess they just don't believe sometimes fully, or maybe they just don't have that willpower to do that right thing over and over and over and put one foot in.
No doubt about it. I'll give you an example. Like this shirt is like too big on me. Okay. So I'm gonna stand up. See, it's too big on me. And so I've been an athlete all my life. And so my previous trainer was more into like getting me bulked. Mm-hmm. So I said to one of my assistants, I want to bring in a different type of person that really gets me into stretching, mobility, because I'm not 35 years of age anymore. Mm-hmm. And so I brought in this new trainer, and it's a lady, and oh my gosh, like I am like leaning down, my face is lean. I'm stretching in ways, my mobility, my energy. But one thing she said to me the other day, she goes, "You are so consistent." And because of, the pandemic, my gym, which was Gold's Gym, just kept opening and closing, opening and closing. So somebody gifted me a gym, like a $27,000 gym in my garage. He paid for the whole thing.
Wow.
And so the trainer just comes here, but just because the trainer says she's going to come, Justin, you know how many mornings I wake up and it's like 5 a.m. and I don't want to go in there?
I'm telling you.
I don't want to be stretched like Gumby.
Yeah.
It's but I'm liking the results. The results are I'm fitting better in my clothes, and I have more energy and more mobility, and my mind's even more clear. So I'm liking the harvest.
Right. Yeah. Keep planting the right seeds and you're like the harvest. But you believe in it and you know it. And it sounds like you had a default early on to believe in it. And, sometimes I wish we could just push that belief into more people. And I guess that's what you do, is help those people push that belief into them so that they can keep that consistency going.
But stay on the default, because that was cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah, my life in the early days was a lot of defaults. Like my father passed when I was 10 in a car accident. He was going through a green light. A man ran a red light and he died. And then my mother, so I'm mixed heritage. I'm Black on my father's side. My mother is Spanish. So my mother only had a 6th grade education and she speaks broken English. She's very strong still. She's about to be 91. And so she had to raise 4 kids that were living at home. And my older sister, Berna, she was already out. She had gotten married. So my mother had to raise 4 kids working at a donut shop. So I know what it's like to live life by default and not by design.
Yeah.
Like for most of my childhood.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized I didn't like that default life. I like living by design rather than by default.
Right.
And so when you start to get into that design life, design means your scheme or your blueprint. Nothing like it. Like this laid back joy that you see, I have this. This is me.
Yeah.
And I got a lot of stuff to do today. I'm going to speak to the Fairmont hotels. I speak for Fairmont hotels. I speak for Nobu hotels nationwide. I speak for the biggest companies in the world. And I won't be wearing this outfit later when I speak to Fairmont. But, I'll be more passionate on stage, but I'll be just this laid back in my mind.
Yeah.
Because I'm just doing my assignment. Again, if you just do your piece of the puzzle, your life will be a lot easier.
Yeah. Man, I love it. Well, I so appreciate you. If people were wanting to get your book, just tell us about this new book you have coming out.
I'm looking around and can't believe I don't have it right here. What's with me? I got a new book. I should have like displays of it. I should have posters of myself. Let me look here. My new book is Miracle Mentality, as you said. There it is.
Perfect.
And they can get on Amazon right now. So the great thing about this, I got to teach people about books. So when you see me hold this up, that doesn't mean buy it because he's trying to make money. I want to teach you guys a lesson. I already made a lot of money. My book signing was extremely, extremely large.
Yeah.
Because look at the publisher, Harper Horizon. Okay.
Yeah.
Then my books do well. And I have Oprah Winfrey backing me up. So imagine what she did to my last book, Come Back and Beyond. So this book will help change you because it talks about having the right mindset and not living a mundane, messy, or mad life. You can get it right now, even on Audible. Then you have to hear me talk for 5.5 hours. But you can get that. And then just follow me on Instagram, Tim Storey Official, TIMSTOREY Official.
Yeah. I'm going to give you one last just question. So, going back to being raised at a young age by a mother, that was, bilingual or that was struggling to very much so,
Yeah, with their Spanish language.
Overlapping in, some of like Grant Cardone's stories kind of similar.
Yeah.
But do you think, I can't remember who wrote the book, Power of Broke, but your default was that as a child even. And so, like you said, probably more gracefully than our buddy Grant. He has a different delivery, which is great too. But you said, that you decided you liked a life by design, not by default, and which I like.
Yeah.
And we may title this interview "Life by Design, Not by Default." But that there's some power in starting there, isn't there? I mean, Oprah Winfrey, for instance, started at broke, at zero, and built up. I think
100%. I think most people that I know that are very successful, the challenge or the setback, as I talk about, can be very helpful to you because Henry Ford said, failure gives me the opportunity to begin again more intelligently. So I am more intelligent because of the pain in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And like, for instance, and Grant is one of my best friends. We are best of friends. I'm the only one that has spoken at 4 out of the 5 10X conferences.
Wow.
4 out of 5.
Yeah.
And so I feel that, everybody has a different approach on how they come at it, but failure can be a fuel.
Mm-hmm.
And so all you that are watching right now that you feel like, man, I suck, now what? Well, here's what I tell you. Number one, become awake. Secondly, take inventory. Where's my life now? Partner with the right people. So just keep following Justin and his leadership style and what he's doing, and partner with the right people. It'll start taking you to the right place.
Yeah, no, I so appreciate that. And I actually, with Grant, just to clarify, I'm a guy that would listen to you and Grant as like the perfect mixture for me. He gives me that little bit of maybe kick in the cojones that you need sometimes to get off your lazy, back. And then your message to me is uplifting and it makes you feel better. And then it talks about, that purpose driven thing. So the combination for me is great. And I think everybody should have like a couple of people that they really listen to. And Tim Storey would be a great one. So you guys check him out. Thank you so much for doing this today, Tim. Really appreciate it.
What a privilege. See you soon in Mississippi.